everyone here this morning, or afternoon as it is now.
Good afternoon, folks. This is the start of the late World War II battle. So what we've been illustrating is the difference between the way that World War II was fought at the beginning and how it worked at the end. The Germans are coming into the arena at the moment, and they're setting up a defensive position. They're on the retreat at the moment. The ground rules were very, very different towards the end of World War II to how they were at the beginning, when the Germans were in full blitzkrieg mode and winning every battle they entered. The Allied forces have learned an awful lot of lessons. Their comms are an awful lot better than they were at the beginning of the war. They've got walkie-talkies, they're able to call in artillery and air support, and their tactics are much more up-to-date and much faster moving. When they entered the war, they really weren't ready for a fast war. They weren't ready for blitzkrieg. They were still fighting a First World War type of action, and it didn't work against the Germans. Now the boot's on the other foot. The Germans, though being enormously technological and having very advanced weapons, they were still supplying those advanced weapons with horse transport. 80% was still horses and carts. Artillery was still moved by horse transport, so it was very slow moving, and they were running out of supplies and equipment. So the boot's very much on the different foot. The Americans here, we can see coming into the arena, an infantry section, they're pushing forward. Every infantry section has a radio, they've got a walkie-talkie, they can talk to their platoon commander can talk to company, the company can talk to regiment. They've got direct links with aircraft, they've got direct links with long-range artillery and tank support. So it's completely tied in. The result is a completely different kind of action. So we can hear the Americans talking to each other over the wireless. The Germans, if they need to send a message, have got to go to the half track. There's a wireless in the half track, but they've got no air support, and they've got very little artillery support, and very little in the way of ammunition. So, American infantry pushing forward, two sections, one giving cover to the other. Classic fire and manoeuvre, and ready for trouble. The Germans are set up with an MG-34.
Good luck, over.
But God knows if they've got enough ammunition. Contact. So the Americans now know where the Germans are. So there they've requested fire support, pulled back, they know where the Germans are, they've given a grid reference. One section moving for a flanking manoeuvre. We don't have that much ammunition. The Spandau there will deliver something like 1,000 rounds a minute, but they've probably not got that much ammo because they've just lost all their support units. So the Americans have called in armoured support. They've got a half troop of Sherman tanks. Now, whatever you say against the Sherman, it really is the tank that won the North European War, the Northwest Europe War. It did have its faults. The Germans did call them Bronsons because they lit up first time when they were hit. However, it didn't matter that it took 5 Shermans to take out a Tiger because there were 10, 20, 30 Shermans for every Tiger tank. The difference between, part of the reason for this was that Allied production techniques were different to the Germans. The Germans kept making a new tank and a new design, and they never really got them into full production, whereas the Sherman was developed all the way through the war and got better and better, but it was the same tank. So the Germans have called up some support. They've got a Stug. It's a mobile anti-tank gun, self-propelled anti-tank gun, more than a match for the Sherman, but only really in ambush. So once its position has been noted, it can't really do much because it doesn't have a turret, it can't rotate its gun without moving the vehicle. But that gun is more than a match for a Sherman. At the moment, the infantry are trying to tell the Sherman crew about the Stug. Don't know if they've heard. And the Sherman's been hit. So they're calling in more armour, a thing that the Germans just don't have. Sheer weight of numbers coming in here.
It seems to be a tractor.
Now that's the next thing they're bringing in. It's a 60mm mortar. That's the American equivalent of British 2-inch infantry mortar. Hand portable, quite accurate over short range. So they're going to take out the MG, take the Spandau out with the mortar. You can do a lot with an infantry mortar. There's at least one incident of an infantry mortar taking out a Tiger tank. That was the DCLI in a place called Le Plessis-Crémaux in 1944. First ranging shots from the mortar. You usually take a couple of rounds just to get the range. So the Germans have pulled away from their machine gun position. They can't stay there. And that will allow the Americans to advance. So that was a call for heavy artillery. So we've got artillery, heavy artillery, long-range artillery coming in on the machine gun position. That was the first ranging shot. Americans leading off with their tanks. One tank per section, each covering the other.
Going on.
Not sure what the German half-track's doing. It might have mobile infantry in it. Americans getting ready to move forward. Surprised the Germans haven't moved forward and remanned that machine gun. So they've got a bazooka, which is a handheld anti-tank weapon, and they're going to deal with the half-track with that. Again, this is a late war weapon, rocket technology. It only came in towards the end of the war. The American infantry moving forward, one section covering the other. And the Germans pulling back at the hump. They've obviously decided that's untenable. And the half-track's been hit by a bazooka. Two sections here, each covering the other. Keep radio contact with each other. So any traffic on the back. Something tells me they're going to take quite a lot of prisoners. So prisoners should be disarmed, searched, allowed to keep their personal items, and moved back to a cage. In theory. So now we've got the chaos of dealing with prisoners and moving them back to a cage before the position can be consolidated and made secure.
Vacate the main arena for please to be ever so grateful as we have to prepare the arena for the afternoon demonstration.
The tanks that they built. Fury had twin diesel. This one has the Chrysler multi-bank engine.